like my next guest, we got some great politicians out there and we get them all here on TNT Radio. It is Senator Hollie Hughes. She was elected to the Senate of New South Wales following a successful career in communications, government affairs and consultancy and advocacy for rural and regional areas because she's from Moree. She's one of the real people who knows the real problems that people face, not just in our cities, but out back. And that's the type of people we need here in power in this country. Senator Hollie Hughes, how are you?
Good afternoon, Dean. How are you?
A pleasure to have you on the program. I heard you talking to Chris Smith several times, and I'm like, I have to get this woman on my program. She is wonderful and just the type of politician that we need in this country. So first of all, I like to say this to politicians as well as military people. Thank you for your service because you do a terrific job. Now, I wasn't going to talk about Kathleen Folbigg, but there's been some information come out today that not only was she, incorrectly incarcerated and found guilty, but that wasn't just as a lack of evidence, but there is now evidence coming out that could lead to the medical evidence that was being incorrect and from somebody who wasn't qualified to give it.
Yeah, and look, it's really quite frightening how often you hear these cases, as they go through particularly updated medical science and the way that they can study things now, how many times not only was evidence given that may not have been scientifically correct, it was deliberately misleading and made completely false claims. And, I spoke about this with Smithy the other day. I've been listening to one of the podcasts about the new scientific developments in her case. And as a mum of three, it was always to me just incomprehensible how you would go through having babies and then, commit these horrific acts. And the babies were, from 19 days to 19 months. It's a pretty big, it's a spectrum of ages. It's not like they were all sort of under 3 months or anything. So it was just horrific to think that this woman might have spent 20 years in jail after being convicted of the most heinous of crime, but also dealing with this huge loss that she would feel. So, I'm sure there'll be a compensation claim at some stage after it goes back to the courts. But, just horrific that this miscarriage of justice could occur.
It is. And, I said yesterday to people, it's one thing to be convicted of, let's say you were incorrectly, convicted of a bank robbery. You wouldn't be too happy about it, but you could at least get on with your life to some extent. But when you've lost children and you don't get that opportunity to grieve as a mother or father would because you've been accused of killing them and the bulk of people around you would consider you guilty because they believe in our judicial system, never have been able to process that grief properly. I just hope that now that she is free and she's had her Kahlua and whatever it was that was going with that, I just hope that she can now grieve and recover. And as a mother, I know there's no coming back from that, but there's a process that you need to get to the other side of, and it needs to be unencumbered, and she's never enjoyed that.
No, it's just horrific. I honestly don't know how people get up the next day or any day after they've lost one child, but to have lost 4 would just be incomprehensible. And to not be able to grieve that, but also to, she lost her marriage through it because her husband didn't believe she was innocent of the crime. So, she really lost everything, but was lucky to have a couple of very close girlfriends stand by her. And, that's just very lucky for her that she's got those friends still there.
Yeah. And, you could look at it from her perspective as well. So much support now. But, if I was her, I'd be thinking, that where were all of you lot? Where have you been over the last 20 years? It's because we've been trained to trust the experts. That's what we've been trained to do. And I won't get into other things with you, but the last 3 years has told me to pick my experts. I'll pick who my experts are, and I won't have you tell me mainstream media.
Well, it's extraordinary. And, you and I would both know as people, I hope, are becoming more aware that there are agendas being pushed through, media and people pushing their own agendas. And it's important that people still maintain their ability to critically think about something, to have a look at an issue and develop some of their own opinions within their own moral compass and their own world. But it's frightening how many people you see sort of just, and particularly those in the left, they're just led by the nose. And they, nothing you say to them or any cogent argument will they even entertain, because they're just so focused on pushing whatever their ideological agenda is, and facts be damned.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, as being in the mainstream media, for 12 years, and someone who's been sacked for speaking the truth and being vindicated a couple of times, I like it here on TNT because we can ask questions we wouldn't otherwise ask. But I still won't ask questions of people who I respect in mainstream political parties because that answer, despite the fact that it could be the best answer that you could ever hope for, could see them outed from their party. So there are certain things that I won't ask anyone of the Liberal Party, not because of you. You know where I'm going with that, and I don't want you to respond. But I have to, as being in the media, protect people who are in the mainstream political process, and by not asking them those questions, because we can't anymore. That is the way the media has turned.
Yeah, but it's also when you look at the social media. I mean, I've actually been having a bit of a message with an ABC journalist today. Someone last night, this event was a year ago,
yeah,
and someone has put up on Twitter at 1 o'clock this morning a series of photos of me at an event, but it's where Linda Hurley, the Governor-General's wife, was singing. And the look on my face is interesting. I have quite an expressive face. But someone shared these photos. And, this journalist sent me a link to the Twitter. I deleted Twitter a little while ago. And, I had a look at it and I said to him, it's hilarious. But, this event was a year ago. What is the point they're trying to make? But, it shows clearly, particularly those of us from a more conservative background, we live rent-free in some of these lefties' heads in just so many ways, and they just can't help themselves but attack us. I mean, this is just, I don't know what face I was pulling. As I said, the event was a year ago, but the look on my face is sort of one of what's going on here. But they've cast these sort of aspersions over it, and it's like, who are these people? Get a life. I certainly was in bed at 1 o'clock this morning. I was not up putting tweets about someone from events a year ago.
Yeah, no, it's very easy. When I fly my drone, which I don't do very often because of all the limitations on it, I have this look on my face, and it looks like I've been lobotomized, and it's just frightening. I would never show myself flying my drone, my mouth is agape. I've just got this look and I don't care what I look like. And it's funny, but if I ever go for a job at the ABC as a journalist, I'll use it as my profile pic, because the fact that I look like I'm lobotomized will probably get me over the line for a job. Again, don't respond to that. Now, vaccine mandates, they're still in place across Australia, especially, in New South Wales, all but 4 councils. I mean, I've got a mate that's a garbage collector in Blacktown, in a truck by himself every morning for 5 or 6 hours, and he can't rock up to work unless he gets another jab. I mean, we've had our former Chief Medical Officer of Australia saying, look, we're no longer justified in having these. How do we fix this? How do we at a political level get these things reversed? Because even the WHO, for God's sake, has come on board and said it's over.
Yeah, well, I don't think, and someone will no doubt correct me if I'm wrong here, but I don't think there's any federal government mandates. All of them are driven at either local or state government level. I know in Queensland they've still got it with the police force. So the police have to be vaccinated, but the people they're arresting or the people that they're, crowd controlling or whatever it is, they don't have to be. That's fine. I mean, it is just insanity that we're continuing on with this. Enough's enough. Personal choice. If you don't want to have any more, don't have any more. Like, I think I had 3, and I had them at the time when, that was the best defence we had, when this virus was overtaking all our lives. I'm certainly not having any more. I think my last one was, 18 months, 2 years ago. It's all sort of a bit of a blur with this COVID timeline. But I'm not racing out to get one every 6 months. I am under 50, I'll say that. But I'm not saying if someone wants to go and have them, they shouldn't, but it should be about choice. We need to move away from this mandating. We don't mandate flu shots. We don't mandate any other sort of immunisation. And so I don't think it should be mandated in any shape or form anymore. And I saw an article this week where there was a cardiologist saying
hang on.
Stop them altogether.
Senator Hollie Hughes, before you go on, the newsroom waits for no one. I have to go. But you talk about looks on faces. Imagine mine if you don't ever come back on my program again. I'll be devastated. I've got to go. I thank you. I've got about 3 seconds for coming on, and we'll talk again soon.